Dear E, I'm not sure if you'll read these, but I have a hunch that you will. It's not like you have anywhere to go, right? Being stuck in that town and all. I would ask how you're doing, but I'm sure you're just fantastic. In case you were wondering, I'm not doing too well. After all the stuff you made us go through, it's hard to adjust to the normal world again. I guess you can never completely wipe the blood off your hands if you're a murderer. Now can you, E? Actually, that's one of the things that I've gotten interested in lately since I've had more time to think on my own. You're probably surprised to hear from me. We all promised not to contact you until you were, well, human again, I guess. In case you haven't figured it out yet, I am one of the subjects that you used to study. The one with the most potential, if I remember correctly. Maybe that's the reason I seem to be the only one that can't let go of it. I can't continue with my life as the others did. As you used to say, I'm different. So, to keep this short, I have been preoccupied with setting up a new study to find answers to a question that has been driving me crazy. Can being part of a group increase pro-social behavior of individuals under certain circumstances? Personally speaking, I would answer yes, but as a scientist, I know that opinions mean nothing if they can't be falsified. I realize that this might seem a little insane, but I swear that my intentions are good, not that you would care. The world is going mad-y, and scientists like me are needed more than ever. While I can't talk to my friends about this, I know that you will understand. For now, let's begin with the preparations of the groups and the first day of the equipment. You will hear from me again soon. Love, J. Group 1, A, D. Group 2, M, E. The study will focus on the perspective of Group 1. The participants were chosen from a pool that was filtered by certain factors. Individuals living in the same region in the following called Region Z. Thorough personality assessments were conducted for each individual, with half of the participants showing possibilities for psychopathic and/or narcissistic traits. The other half score high on conscientiousness and altruism. We want to see whether the combination of individual factors will have an effect on the group behavior for participants derived from Region Z. As an additional variable, the factor of a second group is added, who will be interacting with them indirectly. Day 1. Introductions. When I participated in the experiment myself, we were all isolated, sitting alone in a room while an anonymous authority made us do horrible tasks to each other. The worst part about this was being alone. No way of communication besides talking to some computer program. For this study, I decided that I would do things a little differently. Each group will live together in the same space and will be able to discuss each assignment with each other. The main space is a big living room with a long table in the front and 6 chairs. There is a chalkboard as well as chalk. A kitchen, although there will not be any possibility for participants to prepare food. Participants were not able to bring any personal belongings besides the clothes that they are wearing at the moment. At the back of the room are 6 single beds. They can choose which one they want to use. The only private area is the bathroom. Allie, Andy, and Ashley are entering the room. Allie is 24 years old and female. She has brown hair and is dressed in a yellow sweater and jeans. She has some scars on her skin but does not show apparent signs of trauma. Ashley is 18 and female. She has blonde hair and appears quite confident. However, she keeps scratching her arm. 28-year-old Andy has black hair and is dressed in a black shirt and black pants. He seems to be a little paranoid. While the girls introduced themselves, he kept looking at the door and whispered something indistinctly. "Why are there 6 beds? Are there more people coming?" Allie asked. "I guess so. It's a group experiment, right? 3 people hardly count as a group." Ashley already claimed one of the beds in the middle. Allie sat down on the one to her right while Andy walked over to the one on the far left corner. He picked up some chalk from the board and wrote his name down on the black wood. "Afraid somebody's gonna steal your bed," Ashley laughed. "You don't know how people change when they're cooped up long enough, especially under certain circumstances like an experiment. Makes them go crazy," he mumbled. "Oh, so this isn't your first time doing something like this?" Allie asked and walked over to sit down next to him. "Usually I'm on the other side," he responded in a dry tone. Things might get a little complicated with Andy. He has the knowledge and a fair share of experience in this field, but lately he has been questioning his sanity a lot. And for reasons that will become apparent soon, I needed him to be part of this study. I just hope that his presence will not distort the results too much. He got up and walked towards the kitchen to inspect the drawers. I didn't leave any too sharp weapons, but Andy grabbed the forks. Next, he walked to the mirror in the bathroom and he broke it into pieces. "What are you doing, dude?" Ashley shouted. He took the things that he had just collected and spread them out on his bed. "This is just some experiment. I don't think you'll have to fight for your life." Allie took a piece of the mirror and touched the sharp edge. "No, he's not wrong. People can change from one second to the other. It's not a terrible idea to have some safety. We'll share, okay?" she said towards Andy. He nodded and they divided up the items that he had just collected, which they hid inside their clothes or underneath their beds. They were already communicating and helping each other. It'll be interesting to see whether they will stay loyal to each other when the last participants arrive. But first, it was time for a message. And as I mentioned earlier, I decided to keep things anonymous. For that matter, I installed a program that would change my speech into a robotic-sounding voice. Hopefully, they will think that they're talking to an AI. And what better name would there be than Social for my communication system? I pressed the button for the intercom and started speaking. "Welcome, participants. I am Social and I will be guiding you through this experiment. We are very glad that you decided to be a part of this. Your participation will revolutionize the science of groups as we know them. Soon the rest of your group will arrive and you will get more information on the process. Make sure to work together. This experience will be significantly more enjoyable if you help each other. If you have questions outside of the assignment times, you can activate me by saying, 'Hey Social,' and then adding your question." I could hear basically anything they said, but I hope this might give them the feeling of not being entirely observed so they would act more freely. The door opened and the last three participants entered the room. Derek, 22 and male, looked quite overwhelmed with the entire situation. He stayed close to the door and didn't say a word. Dimitri, 43 and male, was the only one dressed formally in a nice shirt and suit pants. Without saying a word, he walked over to the bed at the right corner of the room. The last participant entering was Dale, who was also male and 24. He was already shaking as he walked inside. He seems to be more anxious than the rest of the group and shows signs of paranoia. Allie, who had been in the bathroom when the new participants arrived, just came in, but as she made eye contact with Dale, she stopped in her tracks and whispered something that sounded like his name. Then she ran over, probably to hug him, but before she could get close enough, he pushed her away so fast that she fell to the ground and hit her elbows on the ground. One of her arms started bleeding as one of her scars was scratched open. "What the heck?" Ashley shouted and got up from her bed, a fork shimmering in her hand. She was already acting protective. Before she reached him, however, Allie got back up and whispered, "It's okay." "What do you mean? He just pushed you for no reason. Do you guys know each other?" I'm sorry, it was a reflex, but I don't think I know you," Dale mumbled as he helped Allie get back up again. "You don't," she said with a sad undertone. I guess you just reminded me of someone. But I know you, Derek now said towards Andy. I've seen you. Andy didn't respond, he didn't even look at him. I guess that was my cue. Time for another message from social. Welcome everyone. Now that we are complete, I can give you the first information that you will need. All of you belong to Group 1. While you're going to live in this apartment for the following week, there is another group in this building. You will not be in direct interaction with them, however. You will be making a number of decisions for each other. For that, I want to ask you to choose a leader. He or she will have the last word in each decision. You may discuss it for 5 minutes before logging in your choice. The time starts now. How are we supposed to choose? We don't even know each other. I vote Andy, Allie said. He has some experience with this. No, Derek shouted. That guy is a psychopath, anybody but him. What about him? Ashley said and nodded over to the bed in the right corner. He seems to be the oldest one. I don't like this. I don't want anyone to make decisions for me. I thought that this was a group thing, not following some random dude, Dale said. You're right. Choosing one representative for a group seems like putting your trust into someone you don't even know. It feels wrong. I think we should all make our choices together. Dimitri spoke. Those were his first words since he had arrived. The 5 minutes are over. Name the person of your choice now. Dimitri, Derek said. Dimitri, Ashley repeated. Well, I vote Andy, Allie said. I don't even know most of your names, but this is BS, Dale exclaimed. He took a look around the room and finally said, forget it. Dimitri. Dimitri smiled. I guess I'll have to be as arrogant as to say my own name as well. Dimitri. The rest of the group stayed silent, but it didn't matter, I guess. I was actually rooting for Allie myself, if I'm being honest. But I guess they will learn the consequences of their choice soon enough. Dimitri is now the leader of Group 1. Group 2 now has chosen their leader as well, and we have the first task for you. As Group 1, you get the privilege to make the first choice. We have enough water to get both groups throughout the week. However, you get to make a proposal on the percentage that each group will receive. If Group 2 accepts the choice, you will receive what you chose. If not, both groups will go without water. 50-50, that's easy, right? I mean, that way we all have enough and they will definitely accept, Derek said. We could also just give them like 20%. They'll have to accept either way or they will most likely die of thirst. Ashley responded. That's just evil and unnecessary, Allie said. Well, who cares? We don't even know them, Ashley responded. Lock in your choice now. 90 for us and 10 for them, Dimitri spoke confidently. Are you insane? Allie shouted. Why would you do that? He didn't respond. Group 2 has accepted your choice. You will receive your first ration of water in a moment. Group 2 was given a choice for your food rations. They suggest that you receive 3% while they receive 97%. Do you accept? No, Dimitri said without even discussing it. Well, I guess that means no food for either of them. Everyone stood in shock. The only one showing a reaction was Andy, who started laughing. Humans are such idiots, he said. Allie stayed in the bed next to Andy, which was interesting. It seemed that she had built a bond with him and Ashley but neglected her after the recent events. Next to her was now Derek, who seemed to be a less dominant participant than the rest. Next to him were Ashley, Dale, and Dimitri in that order. However, for the rest of the evening, none of them spoke much, and if they did, they only whispered. The atmosphere had already shifted significantly in those first hours. I couldn't wait to see what would happen as the decisions became more severe. Although I didn't even have to wait that long for something to happen, As it had become night and most participants seemed to be sleeping, I noticed movement in the room. I changed the camera view and saw that there was a second person on the bed of Dimitri, sitting on top of him. At first I didn't notice who it was, but then I recognized the bright yellow sweater. It was Allie, and in her hand she held a big piece of the mirror. She was holding the piece so tight that there was already blood dripping onto his white shirt. She held the broken glass to his throat and whispered, "I know what you're trying to do, but you won't get away with it." I took a look at the other camera where I saw the face of Dimitri. To my surprise, he was smiling. Dear E, the next day of the experiment is finished and documented. It went pretty well so far considering everything. To be completely honest, I still find it hard to square all of this with my conscience. Even when I try to remember why they're all here, I can't help but feel bad from time to time. But eventually I just tell myself that they are the ones making the decisions. I just hope the groups communicate with each other, and they are here voluntarily after all. I know we're still early in the process, but I do believe that Group 1 has some very distinct patterns. Do they put something in the water of Region Z? Maybe you can drink some and let me know. You will hear from me again soon. Love, Jay. And P.S. So far none of our friends seem to be aware of what is going on. Let's keep it that way. They deserve some peace. Day 2. It was strange. I watched Allie's face distort with madness as the blood was dripping onto Dimitri. I knew that I had to intervene. I couldn't let her kill off one of my participants on the very first night, but at the same time I was curious about what would actually happen. Could this nice and innocent girl commit murder based on one petty decision that their chosen leader had made? Or was she simply trying to make a statement? While these thoughts were racing through my mind, my hand gently resting on the button that would start the intercom, someone else had already taken care of it. Andy had woken up without me noticing and pulled Allie away from Dimitri before she could actually hurt him. And that was it for the night. I doubt any of those three slept for the rest of the night, but they didn't speak or act either. They were just lying in their beds and waiting for the night to end. Why is there blood on his shirt? Ashley sat on Dimitri's bed in the morning, watching him while he had his eyes closed. He calmly opened his eyes and responded, "I must have opened an old wound." I switched to Derek and Dale, who were sitting around the table. Allie, who looked clearly tired, had joined them. "They won't actually keep us without food, will they? I mean, I'm already hungry," Derek said. Allie and Dale both shrugged. That wouldn't surprise me. I joined a few experiments, and for most of them, they treated me like crap. Allie's eyes opened wide. "What kind of experiments?" she asked. "Oh, nothing like this, more medical." "And what did you say your name was?" "Dale." "Well, Dale, I joined a couple of medical studies myself. I spent the last years trying hard to forget about them. I guess you were too," she said with a sad undertone. "What kind of studies? Who ran them?" Andy had approached the group and took a seat opposite to Derek. After nobody responded, he asked Derek a question. "You remember seeing me, right? Don't tell me where, just confirm." Derek nodded with a look of disgust on his face. "Yeah, I know exactly who you are. You're probably the one who deserves to be cooped up in here the most." Andy ignored his remark and was now shifting his attention to Ellie. "And you know him, Dale." "Well, I thought I did." "I've never seen her in my life, although this wouldn't be the first time that a random person is approaching me. Maybe I just have one of those faces." "Yeah, no, this would be too much of a coincidence. I think she knows you. This guy here knows me, and..." He turned down his voice a little. "I believe those two have met before as well," he said while pointing over to Dimitri and Ashley. She was lying in her bed staring at the ceiling, and he was lying in his bed with his eyes closed again. Andy got up, seemingly excited. Of course, this was like a little ride to him. He wants to solve it, and he actually reminds me a lot of myself. He walked over to the chalkboard and wrote down the names of the participants. Derek, Andy, Allie, Dale. Dimitri had gotten up and joined him. Interesting, he said. What about you? Andy asked. This new sense of confidence was interesting. Do you recognize anyone here? Dimitri laughed. I'm almost twice the age of most of the kids here. Where would I have met them? College? Right, Andy said. And you, Ashley, why did you want to vote for Dimitri without even having talked to him yet? He was now standing right next to her, staring down at her empty gaze. Ashley didn't move or even look at him. She kept staring at the ceiling. He kinda reminded me of my dad. Great theory and all, but so far it seems as if the only one who actually knows anything about anyone here is me. And if the rest knew, they would try to get away from here as quickly as possible. Derek said towards Andy. Hey, Social, Allie shouted. How did you pick the participants? Clever of her. Whatever the rest of the group said, it could be lies. Good morning, thank you for contacting me. Everyone in this room was offered a special offer to join this experiment. Each of you voluntarily decided to stay inside this group. The exact reasons are private and cannot be shared by me. It would go against the consent you signed. Special offer, she repeated. I would like to know what they offered you guys. Wouldn't that be great for group bonding? I wasn't ready for them to share this type of personal information, at least not yet. Also, it was time for another assignment. Good morning, participants. I hope you enjoyed your first night. Group 2 just finished their breakfast. When you open the door of the metal cabinet next to the kitchen, you will find 5 bottles of water as well as 3% of the breakfast which the other group received. In 20 minutes, the first assignment of the day will begin, so be ready. We had built in a little room in between the walls. The participants could open a window to receive items inside a small cabinet that we could fill from the other side. Both sides could never be opened at the same time, assuring they wouldn't be in contact with whoever filled up the cabinet. Great, 3 apple slices, a few cornflakes, and 1 slice of toast. Let's feast, everyone, Derek joked. We won't eat it, Dimitri exclaimed. Probably not a bad idea to save it up. I assume we'll get similar amounts for lunch and dinner. We could eat it all in the evening, Dale suggested. Ashley got up from her bed, grabbed the food and threw it in the sink, and then she started the garbage disposal. What's wrong with you? Derek shouted. I once spent 2 weeks with no food. You get used to it. Honestly, eating nothing is better than tiny amounts. That will just make us more greedy. That's not the point though. You don't get to make decisions for us. We're supposed to make decisions for that other group. Together, Allie said. The last part directed at Dimitri. He sat down at the table next to her. I realize that you might not agree with my approach, but I do have quite some experience and I believe that I can be of help for us all. I don't know why you're all here, but I believe it's because your normal life would have been a far worse choice. Dimitri looked around the room where everybody but Allie was avoiding eye contact. I don't believe that this experiment is just about making decisions. It's about survival. Right it is, Dimitri. Cue for the next round. Time for the next round, participants. You will now be faced with a moral dilemma. You will be spending quite some time in this room, isolated from the outside world, and having something to kill the boredom might make this experience more bearable. However, this comes at a price. Would you be willing to hurt someone from Group 2 if it meant that you will receive an item of your choice? What's that even supposed to mean? They neither define the item nor how we would hurt them, Dale said. Yeah, it doesn't seem right to me, Allie said. Hey, Social, how would we hurt them? You will be able to choose as soon as you make a decision. This is even vaguer, Andy said. I suggest that we decline. Why? Whatever it is, we'll be able to choose in the next moment, and honestly, I would kill for something in this room that will remind me of life outside. I already hate it in here, Derek ranted. I agree. Also, they kept us from getting food. Screw them, right? Ashley said. What do you think, leader? Allie asked with a sarcastic undertone. Dimitri sighed. I get it. Making that decision for all of you was wrong. I will stay out of this one, he responded. And to be honest, I'm also kind of curious about how this will continue, Dale said. Shall we vote? Dimitri asked. Everybody but Andy voted for the items, even Allie. We choose to hurt them in exchange for the items, Dimitri spoke. Splendid. Group 2 is now logged in their choice as well. They decided not to hurt you. This results in the following. Group 1, one of you who will be picked through a random generator, will serve as the Punisher. It will also pick a random person from Group 2. That person will be the victim. Punisher and victim will be guided to a room. You can choose one of the following scenarios for that room. Punisher will break the left index finger of the victim, with one researcher watching. Punisher will be left alone with the victim for 10 minutes to do whatever they wish with them. Punisher will scratch their initials into the scalp of the victim, and you will be provided with the live camera feed of it. Andy started laughing. This is a joke, right? Dimitri already said it. This probably isn't a normal experiment, and I doubt that we can take back our choice, so what do we want? Derek said. I refuse to choose, Allie said. Oh, you didn't seem to mind when you voted for the items, love. Now live with the consequences, Ashley responded. I vote for the third choice. Whoever of us gets to be the Punisher, I think it would only be fair for us to watch. That's sick. I vote for the second choice. If you get to do whatever you want with that person, you may as well choose not to do anything. I feel like that is the most humane choice, Andy argued. While I agree that the other two options are too cruel, we don't know who that Punisher is yet. And not to be too mean, but there are people in this room who seem to have questionable morals, Dale continued. Everyone was silent for a moment. I agree, Allie finally said, but I don't want to watch either. Also, scratching in your initials into someone's scalp. I don't care how crappy Group 2 is. No human deserves something like that. Guess that leaves us with the broken finger. It seems like a decent punishment to me and it can heal again. Shall we log it in? Ashley said. They were quiet again. While I believed that they agreed, something kept them from saying it out loud. Luckily, they had their leader for that. Thank you for logging in the choice. Derek, you have been randomly picked as the Punisher. The door will now open. Move into the closed-off hallway. A researcher will pick you up and guide you to the room where the victim will be tied up and waiting. Everyone else will now have to sit down in their beds. You will receive a list of items when the assignment is completed. As the door opened again, everyone was focused on Derek. He silently walked up to his bed. After a moment, he restlessly got up again. God, man, he finally shouted. That poor girl. It was a girl? Allie asked. Yeah, and young as well. And you broke her finger. What other choice did I have? That researcher was watching the entire time. Andy walked up to him. His voice was calm, but you could clearly hear the judgment in it. Did he grab your hand and make you do it? You were still the one breaking the finger of some innocent person. You could have said no or maybe hit the researcher instead. You. Oh, don't act so high and mighty. I know what kind of things you've done in the past, Andy. They were far more messed up than this. He responded as he got dangerously close to him. It looked as if they were about to start a fight, but Ashley came in between. Okay, listen. We all made this decision together. Let's not forget about that. This is a weird situation, and we don't know what we would have done if we were in that room. Andy took a step back. You're right. I'm sorry. Congratulations, Group 1. Your Punisher successfully completed the task. You will now each receive an envelope containing a list of items. You may each choose one of the things. You do not need to discuss it with each other. Leave the envelopes in the cabinet and you will each receive your item in the morning. Dear E, starting this experiment, I had a clear goal, or at least a clear hypothesis in mind. As I watched the participants continue their lives inside this cage I built, I'm starting to understand what happened to M back when she did the first experiment with us, under your supervision, of course. It's hard to keep observing them without letting things get to your head. The next days of the experiment may have gotten slightly out of hand, but I believe that I gained my self-control back. Don't feel too proud just yet. Love, Jay. Day 3. Hey, social. Oh, hello, Andy. Finally, something was happening. The start of Day 3 had been rather uneventful. After receiving their items, the participants stopped interacting with each other for the most part, except for Dale and Allie, who actually both chose an old-school Game Boy and were now sitting on the same bed playing. Allie seemed to have gotten over the fact that Dale didn't seem to remember her, but it looked as if they were building up some sort of friendship. Derek asked for a tennis ball and was throwing it against the wall, much to the annoyance of Ashley, who had asked for painting materials and was sitting on the table drawing. I tried to zoom in, and what I recognized looked like very detailed bodies of humans, all missing their heads. Not because she hadn't added them. It looked as if they had been ripped off the drawn heads. Yikes. Dimitri chose an old MP3 player and was listening to music with his eyes closed, and he had a notepad in which he was writing down things. After vigorously scribbling down things all morning, Andy had gotten up, as if he had just gotten an idea. How may I help you? I asked through the intercom. Social is Group 2 always getting the same questions as us? Sometimes. Do they get to make more decisions than us? Possibly. Social, can you not be so vague, please? Sorry, I did not understand that question. He sat back down and started writing again. What was that about? Ashley asked. Andy looked up from his notepad. Well, so far the experiment seems to be too arbitrary. There are too many factors not really making sense. What if the reason for that is Group 2 making decisions for us that we're not aware of? That would be interesting. Actually, I am starting to get pretty fed up with that other group, she responded. Yeah, me too, Andy mumbled. Well, to be fair, we did break the finger of one of them, Allie said. We didn't, Derek did, Andy said. Well, he did it because we wanted it to happen. That's the point, right? We are one group. Thank you, Dimitri, Derek chimed in. It was interesting to notice that Dimitri had evolved to much more of a group feeling. Of course, it could just be an act. Good afternoon, Group 1. We have a special round to plan for today. You have spent 3 days in the same room. Do you feel like you've gotten to know the people around you better? I sure hope so, as your knowledge will be tested in the next round. If you get more right answers than Group 2, special prizes and privileges are awaiting you. Are you ready? Heck yeah, Derek shouted. This finally sounds like something fun. Yeah, I very much doubt that it will be that easy, Dale mumbled. Alright, participants. Please each sit down on one of the beds facing the door. We will activate the front camera now. In the following, I will be reading a number of statements describing one of you, and you will have to show whether you know who I'm talking about. You won't have time to discuss it. Statement 1. This participant almost died trying to save a sibling. Raise your left hand if you think this is Derek. Raise your right hand if you think this is Allie. Everyone but one raised their hand for Allie. Everyone but Allie herself. The majority chose right. You gained 1 point. What the heck? I don't have any siblings, Allie said. Statement 2. This participant poisoned both of their parents. Raise your left hand for Ashley. Raise your right hand for Dale. The majority chose for Ashley. The majority chose wrong. You lose 1 point. Ashley let out a sharp laugh. I guess the quiet ones tend to be the ones with secrets, huh? Dale didn't respond, but he was clenching his fist tight. Statement 3. This participant spends days watching the private lives of people through cameras in their eyes and homes. Raise your right hand for Andy. Raise your left hand for Derek. The majority chose Andy, except for Andy, who raised his left hand. This was a trick question. Both answers are correct. You gain 2 points. There was a strange silence filling the room now. Statement 4. This participant tried to commit murder. Raise your right hand for Allie. Raise your left hand for Dimitri. Everyone chose for Dimitri, with the exception of Allie. The majority chose wrong. You lose 1 point. Come on, holding a piece of mirror to his throat shouldn't count as murder, Andy said. They're talking about a different time, Allie whispered. Statement 5. This participant kidnapped and hit a number of children. Raise your right hand for Dale. Raise your left hand for Dimitri. Dimitri and Dale raised their left hand. The rest of the group chose for Dimitri. The majority chose wrong. You lose 1 point. Okay, this one is wrong. I know for a fact that it has to be Dimitri, Ashley exclaimed. I never physically hurt any of them. Depends on your definitions of pain, she responded with a bitter undertone. I mean, we most definitely lost. Why is Social not saying anything? Andy asked the room. Maybe the other group hasn't played yet, Allie responded. The group was now sitting around the table. Were the things Social said true? Dale, did you hurt children? Dale stayed silent. If you did, then screw you. Although it also said that I saved a sibling, which can't be true. Allie spoke. What about the other thing? She closed her eyes for a moment. Yeah, but I didn't kill anyone, but I tried. She took a deep breath. Let's just say my childhood wasn't particularly easy or normal. For years, my parents sent me to a boarding school where I was repeatedly taken advantage of. And the worst part is that my parents denied all of it. Once, when I was almost 18, I tried to hurt the people who were hurting me, but I failed. She was clearly trying to hold back tears. I'm so sorry, Ellie. I can't begin to imagine what you went through. I didn't mean to ask so bluntly. That was bad of me, Andy said. She responded with an understanding smile and gained a few compassionate looks from other participants. Ashley even held her hand. Dale didn't look at her though. Instead, he stared into the distance as he was shaking nervously. The parent thing was right, the other one was a lie, but I swear they deserved it, he finally said. That one was right about me too. As some of you know, I was a researcher and I helped with a highly questionable study, similar to this screwed up scenario. Except they added the wonderful factor of random people watching me, as they would vote on whether I deserved to survive or not. He glared at Derek as he spoke that last sentence. Then, in a more joking tone, he added, I guess this study is both my punishment and my relief. Shall we conclude that all of us have done some questionable things in life? Dimitri said. Some worse than others, though, Derek responded. I don't know, some of the statements could be lies, and honestly at this point I trust you guys more than I trust social, Ashley added. Luckily, I did my research and know who is telling the truth and who isn't. Good evening, Group 1. You lost today's game against Group 2. They were provided with the same choice as you were yesterday. The roles of victim and punisher were reversed, meaning the following. Derek, you will be guided to the room again in a moment. Group 2 decided for 10 minutes with you in which they can do whatever they want. You may prepare yourself for what will come. No, she'll kill me. You should have seen the look on her face yesterday. You guys can't send me in there. Derek jumped up from his chair and restlessly walked around the room. I have an idea, Ashley said and walked up to get something from underneath her bed. She handed Derek a piece of the broken mirror. Social said to prepare and there will be nobody watching. You already broke her finger, you can't do this. She'll probably just break something of yours as well. Without a weapon, she probably won't get far, Andy said. But what if you were right earlier? What if the other group is getting different choices? This is about survival, and whatever happens, our group needs to survive. We're in this together, guys, remember that. Do whatever you have to, Derek. We stand behind you. Dimitri spoke. Exactly. Look, you don't have to hurt her if she doesn't do anything dumb. But in case you need to protect yourself, you can, Ashley added. Derek looked around the room where everybody seemed to be nodding in agreement. All right then. God, oh God. Derek walked back into the room. His clothes were soaked with blood. I turned on the TV that we had installed in the room. The participants were not able to turn it on or off. Only I was. Before Derek could say anything, I played the video of what had happened. You could see a girl with blonde hair. Derek was approaching her, only the back of his head showing. She was saying something inaudibly. As he got closer, she quickly got the knife that she was holding behind her back and stabbed it into his thigh. As Derek fell to his knees, she tried to stab him again, but he had already gotten the piece of the mirror out of his shirt sleeve. From this perspective, it was impossible to see what he did exactly, but the girl fell forward into Derek's arms. Blood started dripping on the ground. That's where I cut off the video. After the initial moment of shock, Ashley started screaming at the top of her lungs. I knew that she had to show some sort of reaction when she realized that the girl in the video was her own sister. Before she could jump Derek and possibly even kill him, I filled the room with the gas that would make them fall asleep for a while. Enough time for me to prepare the next part. Dearie, I guess I never was the best at research, but then again, I never did have the time to finish my psychology degree. My study might not seem completely valid, and I guess I might be biased in many ways considering that I made most decisions on my own, but for the last months, I spent every waking minute researching Region Z. While I wanted to get far away from the madness, somehow I couldn't let go of it when I read about all the pain that had been endured in this region in the last years. A man kidnapping innocent people and getting them addicted to a substance to create obedience. A school that keeps torturing children for the sake of science, leading to the children either going completely mad or joining their sick operations as adults. An organization using state-of-the-art technology to observe people at all times until they turn insane. But even worse than that, using said participants in a game show for sick pleasure. So yes, while my methods might seem a bit questionable, I do believe that my research is extremely important. We are now almost at the end. You will hear from me again soon. Love, Jay. Day 4. How could you? Did you kill her? I asked you a question. Is my sister dead? Did you enjoy it? Did you like hurting a young innocent girl? Let me guess, you're just as messed up as Dale is. The participants were all tied up to their beds with electronic handcuffs. Derek had received some bandages. The blood on his shirt had dried up into a hard, red-brownish substance. Ashley had gotten through a couple of phases since she came back to her senses. She screamed and shouted for a while, had a few moments of calmness in which she tried to talk to Derek normally, and now she had started getting manipulative. "That's not what I do," Dale spoke calmly. "Ashley, you were the one who gave him the mirror piece. Would you have minded if that girl was anyone else but your sister? A different girl just as innocent?" Andy asked. "Probably not, and honestly, my sister deserves it too. She locked me up in a nasty storage unit once, and then she took the only thing that I loved away from me." She looked over to Dimitri as she said that. But she still doesn't deserve to die," she added in a quiet tone. "You didn't mind when I kidnapped you and locked you up. You even seemed to enjoy it," Dimitri added. "I knew it. I knew that the two of you knew each other," Andy said a little too euphorically. "She's not dead," Derek finally spoke. Ashley laughed. Not the scary, hysterical laugh that she often has. This one was accompanied by tears of relief. "That looks like progress, doesn't it?" You scared me," I laughed. I hadn't realized that somebody had entered the supervision room. Usually I'm alone here watching my little experiment on the screens in front of me. I guess you could say that. She's opening up, and for the first time it sounds sincere. I'm still not sure, though, what she would do to Derek if they weren't locked up. Why don't we give her the choice? Yeah, I just want to wait a little longer, see what else they might say. I believe that the fact that they're tied up is making them braver. They're less afraid of someone punishing them on the spot. I think that most of them realize that some of their actions in the past were highly questionable. You can see remorse in some of their faces. We just need to help a little more to break it free. I agree mostly. Dale must know that what he did in the past was wrong. This isn't supposed to be an excuse, but he did have a tough childhood. Allie and Ashley are victims in their own sense too. Andy's definitely showing a lot of progress, or he's just trained in faking it. But who worries me the most is Dimitri. Man, that sociopath will never change. Yeah, that is one hard nut to crack. Allie, I did recognize you when we came here, but when you hugged me, you were mixing me up with somebody else. My brother, Dale now said. He avoided eye contact completely and was just staring into space. What? Remember how you said that you had to participate in a number of medical experiments as a child? Well, I did too. When my parents weren't mentally abusing me, they sent me to those special hospitals. The doctors who tested me gave me a way out when I turned older, so I joined their team. You were one of the children being tested, just as me, just as our siblings. He responded in a dry tone. So I do have a sibling, she whispered. A brother, yes. You were separated by birth. There was no reason for him to tell her. I believe that he was starting to understand that this experiment might have a sinister ending and he was trying to make some sort of amends. Allie didn't say anything for a really long time. And you decided to join them, to do the same thing to other children. Why on earth would you do that? She was biting her lips so hard that it started to bleed. I believe that she had to control herself not to freak out. That was some overwhelming information added to an already difficult situation, and it probably brought back some major traumatic memories. This was one of the few moments in which I actually felt bad about this experiment. Not all of them were bad people, maybe even none of them. They were just given hard choices in difficult situations in their lives. Well, maybe this was just one theory. I'm not sure if I can answer that question, just that I never knew anything else in my life, and those people, they weren't always bad. They made me feel good and special. something nobody else had ever shown me in life. Well, it sounds like they manipulated you, Andy said. That's no excuse, Allie said. It's not, but I swear that if we get out of here, I'll help you find your brother, Dale said with tears in his eyes. And mine. I smiled. This felt like a real breakthrough. Now it was time for the final decision. Hello, participants. Your actions of last night severely hurt one of the participants of Group 2. While I appreciate that you decided this together, Group 2 still deserves to punish you. They were the ones who won the game after all. To make things a little fair, we're giving you 2 options that you can decide from. Option 1. The death of participant Derek. Group 2 will decide how to murder him and all of you will watch live. Option 2. Each of you will have one hand cut off. You will be sedated and a doctor will conduct the operation in a safe manner. You have 5 minutes to discuss. Well, Derek, sorry, but my choice is clear. I wouldn't give my hand for someone who almost murdered my sister, Ashley said. You gave him the mirror to defend himself, and that's what he did. I don't want to lose my hand, but I don't think it's worth more than a human life, Andy responded. Well, look at you, the guy who likes to watch people through cameras suddenly acting like a morally good person. Maybe it's just a test, Allie said. Maybe they want to see if we would sacrifice ourselves for him. Andy laughed. That actually wouldn't surprise me. You're awfully quiet, Derek. What do you think? Do you deserve to live? Dimitri asked. Does my opinion matter? Any human deserves to live, Allie said confidently. Do you really believe so, Allie? What if we had the choice to send Dale? Would your answer be the same? Would you give a hand for Dale who likes to beat up children? Stop wasting time, Dimitri. That's not the question right now. The question is whether we will save Derek, and I don't think there's a choice. I, for one, don't want his blood on my hands. Andy interrupted him. It won't be on your hand. It'll be on the hands of Group 2. The 5 minutes are over. Leader of Group 1, which option does your group choose? Option 1. Derek is sacrificing himself. What? Andy shouted. His face turned completely red as he was trying to somehow free himself from the handcuffs. That wasn't our choice. You just sealed his fate. That's not our decision. Social, we want to change the option, please. Allie screamed towards the door. I'm sorry, the choice is now logged in. Derek will be picked up soon. The participants of Group 1 were sitting on their beds, still cuffed up as the television turned on again. They saw the same room. This time, Derek was sitting tied up on a chair. He screamed and shouted and cried, but the sound was muted. All they saw was the look of fear in his eyes as a man wearing a Venetian mask entered the room. With a big smile on his face, he held up a sharp knife. He pushed it inside Derek and fresh blood replaced the dried up stains on his shirt. Group 1 watched as life slowly vanished from his face. And then the transmission ended. Day 5. Guess your study was a great success, huh? She said with a smug undertone. I sighed. I almost regretted getting her involved in all this. It wasn't a complete failure. We did gain some interesting insights. Jeez, man, look at the screen. They're tied up in their beds, screaming and insulting each other. How is this a success? She asked. Well, just take a look at Andy. The most important thing to him had always been to gain more knowledge, find an answer to absolutely everything. He didn't care if he had to use people for that. I watched him closely during these days, and even being stuck in there as a participant, he never stopped observing. He wrote down connections, ideas, theories. If you zoom into the scenes where he's writing down stuff, you can see that there was one thing he kept asking himself. Who is Group 2? How are they different? What are their motives and how far would they go? We were both looking at the screen now where Andy was sitting silently. For the first time in a while, he didn't look mad or even scared, but upset. Upset that he had lost a friend that he had made. At least that's my theory until I get to interview him about it. That's interesting, but not a surprise. I mean, he's a scientist, that's kind of what they do. The blonde woman responded. Yeah, but as I said, he never cared about what anybody had to endure as long as he got his answer. We gave him the option to see Group 2. We never specified how many of them would be there to kill Derek or how they would do it. And still, Andy chose to save Derek. He would have even given his own hand to save him. Looks like progress to me. She stayed quiet for a while. Okay, yeah, I can see that perspective. Although that's the way you interpreted it. True, I responded. I guess I like to see the good in people. Which is why I'm even prouder of Dale's progress. Not only would he have saved Derek, but he also confessed everything about his questionable past to Allie. And he even promised to help her find his brother, meaning that he would have to betray the people that he works for, she added. Oh, they would never take him back anyway after I got him involved in all this. It might take a while to help him and Allie with their trauma, but I think we can manage, I said optimistically when I looked back at the screens. My mood darkened again. She seemed to be thinking the same thing. We achieved quite a lot in these few days, but there was not even a tiny bit of change observable in Dimitri. He had fooled the participants on one occasion or the other, but from our perspective it was clear. He was manipulative, persuasive, and didn't give a crap about human life. He wanted control. He was sitting there ignoring anything the other participants shouted at him, while Ashley sat there laughing hysterically. God, I hated those two. What about my sister? I got up to stretch my legs and arms a little. I had hardly moved these past few days. Most of the time, I had been glued to the screen, and when I wasn't, I spent the time writing down notes or researching Region Z. There had already been new stuff going on there. It felt impossible to get it all under control. She's a tough case, but she's not as lost as Dimitri. There were a few moments where she was actually acting pro-social, even if it was in her own strange way. When Dale pushed Allie away on the first day, she tried to help her, even though they had just met. When Derek was sent to the punishment, she gave him something to defend himself. And most importantly, she cares about you, Mel. I had met Mel a while ago when I started to collect information on the mischief taking place in Region Z. She was connected to Dimitri, who kidnapped people from her town, including her sister. When he tried to get Mel involved in his business, she was the first one to disobey. While her ways were a tad unethical, she did her best to help her family and those other people out of the brainwashing methods of that sociopath. After we talked about everything, and I told her about all the things that I had witnessed in the last years, she decided to help me. You probably remember her as the girl who Derek cut with the piece of mirror. I want to believe that she can get better, but my father had been part of Dimitri's strange cult for decades without us even knowing. I'm afraid that Ashley comes after him. We'll do everything to get her better, and don't worry, I already have some plans for Dimitri. But for now, we should get started with the last round of our experiment. The social is pretty excited about it. Hello participants, I hope you all enjoyed the gruesome murder of participant Derek. We believe that he shouldn't go to waste considering he cared a lot about this group. We will prepare some delicious meals from his leftovers and send them over shortly. Hope you enjoy it, or better, him. This is a joke, right? Dale muttered. We had to watch live how Derek got murdered last night. I don't think any of this is a joke. They're torturing us, Allie said. He was the kindest one of the group, he didn't deserve it. I'm not humoring these people anymore. We can't even eat anything, we're tied up. Ashley laughed. I would eat him though. I mean, it's not my first choice, but I'm honestly starving. And in a way, I think that's our price. Price? What the heck is wrong? Allie stopped speaking as the door of the apartment opened. One of our researchers walked inside dressed in a white hazmat suit hiding their face. They were carrying a big plate with pieces of meat that had been seasoned and drained in a delicious red sauce. The researcher started on the corner of Ashley and filled a spoon with some pieces of meat. She didn't even bat an eye as she opened her mouth and swallowed what was left of Derek. The rest of the participants declined. It surprised me that Dimitri wasn't interested. Are you not curious how human meat tastes, Andy? Thought you would be the one most interested in it. In case you want to know my opinion, it was pretty good. Shut up, Ashley. He couldn't even stand you. Didn't he watch you get tortured in those videos? Pretty sure that our little Derek had his own little quirks as well. She laughed. Andy pointed his gaze towards our researcher. Who are you? What is this about? You know what, I don't care if you send me back to that decision game. I want out of this. I never agreed for you to murder anyone. Let me go. Or screw it. Let me stay with the two psychos, but let Allie and Dale go, please. What a wonderful breakthrough. The researcher turned around and left with a plate of meat. Hey, Social, did you hear what I just said? Andy shouted as the door shut. Hello, Andy. We are thrilled to see how excited you are about decisions, but as you know, I like to give different options. One of you may leave, but only if you all can agree on the same person. Whoever we would decide on, they would probably murder them as well. We are a group and we should stay together, Dimitri said. Yeah, like Derek stayed with us. Allie spoke with the most cynical undertone. We are literally in the worst place ever. If there is any chance of getting out, I would take it, Dale said. But if we have to choose one person, I say we choose Allie. I think you agree, Andy. Andy nodded. And Dimitri, as you so lovingly made the last decisions for us, I would say that you owe us this one. Dimitri raised his shoulders. Sure, let the girl go. But if they murder and butcher her, you'll join Ashley in feasting upon her. Ashley, will you vote for Allie? Dale asked. I will, but Allie. She whispered the next part, but from what I was able to hear, she wanted Allie to take the last weapons that they had to kill us and free the rest of the group. Hey, Social, let Allie go, we all agree, Dimitri said in a monotonous tone. The electronic handcuffs of Allie opened up. She tried to get up, but her legs were shaking too much. As she got her balance back, she reached under the bed to get a weapon, but Andy and Dale simultaneously shouted, No! Don't risk it, they'll have security measures. Who knows what they'll do if they see you have weapons, Andy said. We agreed on this. She has to get us out, Ashley shrieked. He's right, Allie, don't risk it. Just make sure they let you go, Dale added. And then his handcuffs opened too. So did Andy's. Hey, Social, let me go. I want to go, Ashley screamed. The door of the apartment opened and the researcher in the hazmat suit waved at Allie, Dale, and Andy to follow. They walked outside and the door closed behind them. I turned off the screens. I needed a break from Dimitri and Ashley. You must be starving. Sit down, eat something. You're safe here, I said towards the three of them as they entered the room. Mel was sitting next to me, giving them a sympathetic smile. We had been a little afraid of this moment. I didn't like the look of fear on their faces, but I kept telling myself, we did all of this for the greater good. It's you, the girl from Group 5, the one that Derek hurt. Allie looked furious, as if she had just gained her strength back and was ready to jump us. She looked ready to fight, but Andy held her back. And you were the one wearing the mask. I recognize you. You killed Derek, Dale said while making eye contact with me. Now the two of them were fuming. While Andy was distracted by holding Allie back, Dale started storming towards us. Wait, a voice from the back said. I'm not dead. Derek took off the hat of the hazmat suit. I was ready for the worst. We screwed with their heads completely, but of course I never intended for anyone to actually get hurt. What happened in the last social experiment was awful. I wasn't going to repeat any of the physical harm. I just had to make them think that it was happening, that their decisions had actual consequences. But still, while we didn't hurt anyone physically, this was mentally painful in more ways than one. They thought that they were the reason a person had died. Ashley even thought that she ate human flesh. I was ready for the worst, but not for Andy to start laughing. He walked up to the table and took a seat. With confused looks on their faces, the other two carefully followed him. "There never was a group 2, was there?" Andy finally said. I smiled. "No. And Derek, you knew about all this from the beginning. You acted your part pretty well." "It wasn't all acting. I did despise you in the beginning, but you showed some major redemption." And then he looked at Allie and whispered, "I'm so sorry. I know this is all a lot. Please let me explain why we did this, and afterwards, you can decide what you think of us," I said. "You're social, aren't you?" Allie asked. "My real name is Josh." I gave them a half smile and then continued in a more serious tone. "We chose this group of participants for a particular reason. All of you had been in contact with an awful organization. Dale, you worked for some of them. So did you, Andy. Which is one of the reasons that I didn't feel too much remorse putting you in this study, if I'm completely honest. Or would you disagree?" They both looked at the ground and stayed quiet. "What about me?" Allie asked. "You were a more ambiguous case. We saw some signs of unethical behavior from you, but mostly you were altruistic and empathetic. We were hoping that your and Derek's traits could have rubbed off on your group, and you were the only slight connection that we could find to Dale. We needed you to, well, increase the guilt in him. I realized that we deceived you, and I'm sorry." I swallowed. "I'm sorry about the last days. I know well how awful being in a situation like this is, but it helped us gain a lot of insight on how to stop what is happening. You are saying that my old research department, Dale's school for torturing children, and Dimitri's kidnapping circle are all somehow connected?" Andy asked. "Well, yes. They are all run by people who come from this organization. A while ago, my friends and I managed to eliminate one of their worst members, but she wasn't the only one involved, and the other members are stepping up their game. Apparently, the region where you all originate from is a breeding place for their followers, all showing similar signs of obedience. This experiment was a way to test how to change this. You met Dimitri. Now imagine a whole organization full of people like him. If you think that you don't want to be controlled and be mad at us, I get it. But these people have been controlling all of us for much longer, and they will continue to do so," Mel added. We discussed more and tried to explain as much as we could, but the three of them were so exhausted. I think a lot of input was hard for them to grasp, which is understandable. "Why are you even telling us all this? Is it a part where you tell us your evil plan and then kill us?" Allie said. She reminded me a little of me when I chatted with Maria, the original social. "No, I want to ask you to join us, to destroy them once and for all. You don't have to decide now. Take as much time as you need." "What about those other two in the room? You're not inviting them to join your crew, are you?" "We'll try and help my sister. She's still so young, and I know you got an awful impression of her, but I like to believe that it's not her fault," Mel said. "As to Dimitri, I feel like all we can do for him right now is get rid of him." "Dearie, how are you feeling?" "As to me, I've had some pretty stressful days, if I'm being honest. What a wild ride this experiment has been. I definitely got a little too involved with this, as always, and I'm still not sure how to feel about everything. The participants seem to be more understanding than I ever expected, but in the end, I still use them. I guess that's another thing that I'll have to live with." All in all, I think this was quite a success. I'm sad that I couldn't find answers to everything. One of the participants was just impossible to crack. I figured I could just send him to you instead. I'm sure you don't mind getting a visitor. If I remember correctly, anybody that visits Hickley never wants to leave again. Let's talk again soon. Love, Jay, aka Social 2.0.